Worms, one of the greatest and most cool creatures on God's green earth. They can burrow underground, increase nutrients in the soil, and best of all, they are pink colored and are the subject of many good jokes. Speaking of worms, there's such a mess of awesome and funny worm jokes that'll make you like comedy even more. So grab yourself a snack and a glass of orange juice and try not to reach through the screen because here we go! Number 10. Try this question on for size. What do you call a worm that likes to sit by the fireplace? Why, it's a earthworm, of course. While just a simple pun joke, you can't deny the fact it was still funny. What makes this joke so funny is that it's about earthworms. I mean, when have you ever seen 3 very slimy body segments before? I sure haven't. So once again, a worm that sits next to the fire is a earthworm. Number 9. What do you call 2 worms in love? Soil mates. The real reason this joke lands at the number 9 spot is because by their activity in the dirt, worms offer many benefits, such as increased nutrient availability, better drainage, and a more stable soil structure. So basically, earthworms become Old MacDonald's sweetheart.
Numero ocho.
What did the maggot do with the baseball game? Worm the bench. What surprises me is that while not actually being worms and being about 1/72nd the size of an average human mother, maggots are actually very worm-like fly larvae. Kinda silly, don't you think? What number is next? 7, of course. Okay, are you ready? Why did the robin, not you, go to the library to look for bookworms? People always root for the good guys. But sometimes the bad guys steal the show. Robins are very territorial birds, and one of the most widespread songbirds in America. With very long and gray feathers from their head to their tail, and big black eyes, robins will rock your socks. If only we can see them take wing.
Numero seis. What's smarter than a talking worm? A spelling bee. Did you know while bees can't actually talk, they beat their wings around 11,400 times a minute? That's why a joke about bees landed at number 6.
Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
What makes a glowworm glow? A light, Neil. Glowworms are bioluminescent, meaning they produce and emit light naturally from an organ near their tails that is similar to a human kidney. Who can top that?
The joke at number 4. What kind of music do worms listen to? Well, you probably have never heard of it. It's pretty underground. I bet worms like a band called Radiohead. You probably have never heard of them. 'Cause I'm a leech. I'm a worm. Did you know worms and leeches live in the Himalayas? Meaning they can play around in the Himalayas for hours and be perfectly fine. But what really lands this joke at the number 4th spot is that their music taste is apparently different from the other invertebrates. Next up is number 3. What's worse than finding a worm in your apple? 2 worms. We have all heard about wormy apples, but the worms are actually caterpillar larvae. Their older selves can be downright beautiful. Just look at that long body. Now we're talking. Number 1, 2, button my shoe. What type of worms are the widest? Why, it's a girthworm, of course. I actually have a girthworm in my pants. We heard some pretty good worm jokes, so what could possibly top those? Well, get ready, folks. This is the number 1 worm joke.
A minister decided that a visual demonstration would add emphasis to his Sunday sermon. 3 worms were placed into separate jars. The first worm was put into a jar of alcohol. The second worm was put into a jar of cigarette smoke. And the third worm was put into a jar of good, clean soil. At the conclusion of the sermon, the minister reported the following results. The first worm in alcohol, dead. The second worm in cigarette smoke, dead. And the third worm in good, clean soil, alive. So the minister asked the congregation, "What can you learn from this demonstration?" And a little old woman in the back quickly raised her hand and said,
If you drink and smoke, you won't get worms.
There you have it, folks. Those were the top 10 best worm jokes of all time. I hope you enjoyed it. Go tell your nieces, nephews, aunts, uncles, moms, dad, grandma, grandpa, and all your friends. And have a good day. And I'll see you later. Here we go! Get this. Doing your mom. Doing your mom? That's just insulting!